Hello, Stella.
So the teaching session today will be about this question, why am I here, as part of our self-discovery series. And actually I'm quite glad I got this topic because just last year, actually starting from end of 2014, I think, I asked myself this question a lot. And because I didn't see the purpose of me doing whatever that I did last time, my work, my service, or basically everything that I did. I even asked if I die, would it make any difference? Or if I'm not around, would the world be any different? So I was very emotional at that time. And so if we ask why are we here, or why are we placed here in this earth, we can look at the bigger picture, which here I found from the CCC. The world was made for the glory of God, and God has no other reason for creating than His love and goodness. It is neither coincidence nor necessity. So that means God created this whole world for a reason, for a purpose, and that includes us. Our existence is not a coincidence as well. We might not know what is the reason behind our existence right now, or we might have find it. For some of us, we might not have, or we might not know still, but we have a reason behind our existence. So I'm sure all of us here are very familiar with the term vocation. So vocation literally means a call, and for us, vocation means a call from God. Okay, so as a Christian, we have two vocations. The first one is universal vocation for everyone, which is a call to holiness. And by living out this vocation, we are to love God and to devote ourselves to Him, because there is simply no part of us that is not from Him, and there is no part of us that will not be for Him in the end. So God is really our final destination in life. But for us to be able to carry out that universal vocation, we also have our specific vocation, which is unique for each and every one of us. And it could be work, or your ministry, or your way of life. If you want to go to religious, or stay single, or it's really a call. And although I mentioned that work is also included in our vocation, but vocation is really not the same as profession, because profession only has a horizontal dimension between us and other people. Sometimes we ask, what do I prefer to do with my life, or what does my parents want me to do, or what do I do to make my spouse happy, or something like that. But vocation, for us as a Christian, vocation involves something more than that. We have another more important dimension, which is the vertical one between us and God. It's no longer we ask, what do I prefer, but what does God prefer for me to do in this life? So vocation is like us and God joining hands to serve the world in the end. Okay, and a few weeks ago, Tommy recommended me a book, and I found this term, sealed order, from the book. I don't know whether you have heard this term before or not, but I find it quite interesting, because vocation, or our purpose of life, is not something that we chose out of our human knowledge or out of our selfish desires. It is also not chosen by God a few weeks ago or a few days ago for us. It goes way beyond that. Before we were born, our soul had made an agreement with God to do the mission that He wants us to do in this earth. We have agreed on to do that mission. So that is called the sealed order. So sealed order or vocation doesn't have to be something very formal, like going to a religious or serving in a particular ministry, or something that involves community or something. But it can be as simple as the desire to nurture people. So if someone has the sealed order to nurture people, live out this vocation or this sealed order by, when he becomes a father, or when he becomes a teacher or a boss, even then he can nurture his employees. So it's really unique for everyone, and simply there's no way for us to limit the possibility of this vocation. And I just want to tell a story about my parents, because when I prepared this teaching, I suddenly realized I've been thinking whether my parents are actually living out their vocation or not, and I want to know what is actually their vocation. So my parents are not involved in any community at church or in any formal community like this, and so I can't really see where is their vocation or their service. But what I do realize is that my parents enjoy building close relationship with people. They are working as civil engineers, so they build houses for people and shop houses. And a lot of times they actually told me their work can be quite tiring, physically, emotionally taxing. But one thing that they really enjoy from doing that is because they can build that relationship also with their client. Very good relationship, not just the business part, but the human to human part. And for example, there was one time they had a very old client, very old grandfather. He doesn't know how to bank in money to his account. So my dad went to the bank and do it for him. Or sometimes my parents will help their clients to take care of legal government letters, or if they need a driver to go they need to go out of town, then my parents will help them to find a driver. Or with other people, when their mate is out of town, then my parents will help them to buy food or buy drugs from pharmacy, or all those trivial things. Sometimes they help to schedule confession with a priest for a cancer patient. It's all very informal, but they really enjoy doing it. And I've never seen other people doing that, so I don't know, but I think that's quite unique for them. So sealed order really doesn't have to be something big, and it doesn't have to be our main profession or our main way of life, but it can come along with what we are doing actually, with our profession. It can come along with that. So, okay, why do we need to find our vocation? Why can't we just live according to our desires? Why do we need to find this particular vocation? So, in the most worldly sense, will to meaning means will to live. Basically, purpose sustains people. We can see this in cancer patients. If they have the will to live maybe for their family, or they still have some business to be done, they definitely have the higher chance of survival. And suicidal people, they most likely become suicidal because they don't see the reason of their life anymore. They just don't know why they need to. No one is loving them probably, or their problems are very, very big. They don't know how to solve it. So why bother to live anymore? So nothing sustains them to live. And everyone in this world actually have something to live for. And this purpose doesn't have to be something good. Some people can just strive to live, although they're actually dying, to get revenge for other people. So after they do their revenge, then they can say, okay, I can die peacefully now. But for us, we don't want that kind of purpose. We, as God's children, we want something more. We want the purpose that God has planned for us, and the purpose that will brings us back to Him. So we also believe that God is the only one that can fulfill our desire for a meaningful life. Nothing else can satisfy that thirst. And so by living out our vocation, we are actually answering God's love and trust. Because despite who we are, people with sins and weaknesses, God entrusts a mission to us, which will not be done if we don't do it, because it's really unique for each and every one of us. So we have the freedom and the choice to find God, to follow His ways, or to go back to Him, to follow His plan, whatever it is, we have the choice and the freedom. So by doing that, we are answering God's love and trust. And finally, also as I mentioned, vocation gives us the joy and the strength. Although sometimes it can be hard, but from this vocation we can have, the strength to do the other work that we need to do. And I believe that everything that comes from God is always for our happiness, for peace, for joy. And so it's true with our vocation. He wants our happiness so much more than we want ours. And so, vocation will give us the joy to overcome our life difficulties. No one could ever understand our vocation, probably. I mean, for me, I couldn't understand the way of life for a priest who chose to live as a hermit. I mean, I couldn't understand their way of living, but for them, that's their source of joy. That's their choice to live, that way. Or maybe Doctors Without Borders, or missionaries. Sometimes other people can understand. But simply, if you love the things that we do, we will get up every morning excited to welcome the day to do whatever it is that needs to be done. And so, if we really want to know why we are actually here, we first need to have the desires to follow God, to follow God's plan. Yes. And also, I really like this quote from Pablo Picasso. He said that the meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of life is to give it away. Although it's not written in any Christian sense, but I think it's really true for us right now. That the meaning of our life is to find our gift and then to give it away. It's really not for us. Now, if we look at the Bible on vocation, most of the time, their vocations are being revealed to them directly from God. Or some prophets, like Moses, from the burning bush that talks to him, asks him to do things, and Jeremiah from the prophecy, and for example Samuel from his parents, because he was offered up in the temple, or anointing like King David, King Saul, or directly called like Jesus Apostle. But for most of us, for many of us, maybe it will not be that way. I mean, we will not hear God's voice clearly, audibly in our ears telling us, you go that way or you go that way, or, to become a priest or something. We will not hear it in our ears. We need to slowly figure it out. And to be able to find our vocation, God has given us certain proofs like our charism, talents, interests, things that makes us joyful or things that makes us sad. And for us to be able to realize these proofs, we need to be able to first accept ourselves or who we really are. So for me, sometimes I ask myself, why am I so different, or why am I not like other people, or not as good as other people, or sometimes even why am I weird? But we really all have different, physical appearance, we all have different likings, different strengths, weaknesses, we have different social skills, intelligence, or anything. It's because we were meant to be different. And no matter how much we don't like our appearance, maybe it's all God's given. And it's going to be easier if we remember that everything that we have right now is from God. So it's easier for us to accept ourselves as who we really are. And this Sunday Gospel, I think 2 weeks ago, really reminds me of this teaching. It's about many parts of one body. So Just as one body, though one has many parts, but all its many parts form one body, so it is with Christ. For we were all baptized by one Spirit, so as to form one body, whether Jews or Gentiles, slave or free, and we were all given the one Spirit to drink. Even so, the body is not made up of one part, but of many. So we really are created differently to serve different purpose in the church. And if we ask, why did God put us in this position, in this situation, which sometimes can be so hard, can be so taxing? It's because God knows that by only putting us here with this kind of community, with this kind of family, with this kind of personality, He knows that only that way we can find Him, we can find our purpose. So last year, I asked this question about why did God put me in this situation. So I have a quote that I really like, and I got this quote from the book that I've mentioned several times, He and I. So this book basically contains the messages of Jesus to a lay woman named Gabriel, and here is how it goes. It is I who place you there with a special love. So live there, full of faith, remembering that there is where you will win heaven, where you will win eternal love for this brief moment in time. So pass through this life with great desire to respond to all my tenderness and with constant impatience to know me at last, to know me, your loving Savior. It really strengthens me, really strengthens my faith to know that God actually knows my life, every little details of my life. He knows what I'm going through, He knows all my suffering and my anxiousness, and He will take care of me. So that's why I really like this book. And sometimes for us to be sensitive to the clues that God has given us, we also need to be sensitive to what God is saying to us every day. Sometimes in our busy lives, we are clouded by, worldly sense of wealth or success or money or the kind of life that we should be living, but we disregard whatever it is that God actually wants us to do. So, I remember my spiritual director actually had this term, holy disturbance. I think it's her way of saying that whenever we feel disturbed inside or feeling not peaceful, that's also one of the ways that God is saying you should not be in this place right now, you should move to other place, or you should be doing something else. But sometimes it's very hard for us to sense that. So I think what we can do, as Dennis mentioned in the last session, is definitely to do a reflection, examine, or silent prayer, contemplation, any contemplative activity that just allow us to pause and look back on our lives. How have we been living so far? Have we been living towards God, or have our actions been directed to Him based on love, or it's important for us to be able to see that, to be calmed down and to calm down and not be bothered by all other worldly things. So I think it's also very important that if during the prayer we can ask God to let us see the world through His eyes, using His heart and His love, so that we can really see what He wants us to see or what He wants us to be. And even sometimes after we've done all this, we still have the doubt to make a decision or to take action because we're not sure whether it's really God's talking or not, or whether is it just my selfish decision or is it just something else, I don't know. Or sometimes we can also be scared to make a mistake or scared to disappoint someone, so that's why we are just stuck in one place and we're not moving, although God has told us to move. But God never requires us to succeed. He just requires us to try. And even Archbishop said that success is the Lord's responsibility, not ours. Our task is to be faithful and trust Him. So that is what we are going to do after we discern well, after we pray. Then we just have faith and do it. I mean, what's going to be the result? We don't know. What's going to be the end of everything? Only God knows. I mean, if we are always right, we are not human anyway. So, my spiritual director also told me about this sentence, there is no wrong decision, which I really like. It really encouraged me to take action at that time, because she said that at the moment when we make a decision, that decision is already the best, to the best of our knowledge, even when it involves something very wrong, something clearly very wrong, like taking drugs. For someone to decide to take drugs, most of the times is because they don't know that they will become so addicted to it, it will ruin their life. Or they don't know that there is a better way to solve their problem in life. They don't know that there is a better way to solve their peer pressure. So for them, that is the best way to go. But the important thing is for us right now is after we realize that we are doing something wrong, can we admit that we are wrong and then stop doing it and move to the right direction? Because, God loves everyone so much. He will not let us stray away from the right track. If we are going to the wrong direction, I believe that God will nudge us. Or if we still don't want to listen, probably He will slap us or kick us, I don't know, but to move us back to the right direction, He will do that. Now, if we ask, how will we know it's really God's talking? We really cannot exactly know. But for me, what I do is usually I feel something wrong, I feel there is something disturbing me, then I'll just be in prayer. I ask God, what does He want me to do with it? Should I move to do something else or whatever it is? And from then on, if the peace follows, then I'll just go ahead and do it. Because if we are in life, we are really going in a very long journey. It's really inevitable that we make mistakes. Sometimes we get lost, we make a wrong turn, but it's really okay because that's being human. Sometimes we feel that we have made a very grave decision and the people around us, maybe our parents, they're disappointed, or our friends are judging us. But our true audience is God. So we just live to follow His will, no matter what other people say. And because if we don't even start to take action, we're scared of disappointment, we're scared of judgment, we're scared of making a mistake. Maybe God cannot really do anything for us, because for some cases, we really need to take the first step. If 100 steps is what it takes to finish something, we just need to take the first step. Probably 99 of the steps, God will complete. We don't know. God is so loving, He might just do that. But we need that one first step in the front. So, and we don't need to figure out everything at once, because God knows how it's like to be human. And now I want to share my experience last year. So, as I mentioned that last year, I asked a lot of questions. I was really in a bad situation. I was struggling because even when I go to work, I don't know why I'm doing that. Even when I serve sometimes, I don't know why I'm doing that. I cannot see the bigger picture in the end that is going to be something useful. So, I cannot see how I can be useful to other people or how I can be useful to the world. So, I don't know what is the purpose of my life. And basically, I was just being so negative about life. Life is just love. I think it's really nothing for me at that time. I haven't been feeling at peace with my work, as maybe some of you know that my work brought me more distress than joy. I didn't see where it is going. I didn't see the purpose of doing it, and I think because of that, service also becomes very hard. It didn't bring much joy either. And last year we have our LIC alive. It was really a struggle for me because as one of the committee, of course I expected myself to be alive, to encourage the other people, the participants, but I was really dying inside. Not just because of the service, which can be tiring sometimes, but because of everything. And sometimes I thought, that was not the life that I wanted. That was not the life that I wanted to own as mine. So I was very confused whether is this how my life is going to be? I was quite disappointed. And a lot of people have told me that probably by changing job I could feel better. But I decided that although I might like it, I might also end up in the exactly same place like I was last year. So I got scared. I didn't want to move from that current place. So I was kind of stuck. I don't want to move, but I don't like it either. So yeah. And I decided that I want to find out first what is my vocation or my purpose, what does God want me to do in my life. Then only I will work my way from there. Because, I think I want my job to be more than just 8 hours of getting paid. It needs to serve a bigger purpose. At least that's what I thought. So I prayed a lot. Every night I would ask him, show me where do you want me to go? Show me what you want me to do. But there was no answer. I was very anxious. I was very chaotic inside because partly maybe because I wanted instant results. I wanted God to tell me, okay, you go that way, but it doesn't happen that way. And there was no, clear or legal exact answer as I expected. So in the end, I decided to, maybe I should try something out myself first. Maybe God would not work if I didn't try, to move. So I read a lot of books about discernment, a lot of books about personality type. I really want to know who am I. And I also finally decided to apply for a new job, and I applied for a medical consulting firm, which at that time seemed to me to be very interesting. I also read a lot of things that interest me, starting from applying for a medical degree or nutrition degree or writing or psychology or basically I just read a lot of stuff. I want to know which one that interests me the most, which one that I can pursue. In the end, I admitted some of them because I just don't have the resources. Too expensive, or it's just not feasible for me to do at that time. So after a few months, I narrowed it down to, okay, I really like writing and I really like psychology. Let's just focus on those two. But I still don't know whether I should pursue that. It could be just my selfish decision. It could be just, like a hobby or something. So after I talked to several people, they advised me to find a spiritual director, which I did, and I'm really glad I found her. Because she taught me how to do the reflection, the silent prayer, and she also told me there is the wrong decision, which really encouraged me to, okay, then I can move forward without being so regretful about what I did or what I chose. And she even told me that, in the end, I told her that, okay, probably I should pursue a master in psychology. And she told me that even a few months from now, after you apply, after you do your master, if you come back here and you told me that you don't like it, that's okay. That was quite surprising for me. I didn't know that I was allowed to say that I don't like something that I've paid so much for. And because even that time I regretted why I didn't choose my degree properly. But she told me that, and that's really strengthens me to take action. Okay, let's do it. Then for a few months, I decided to find a university, which I couldn't find. And so I was about to give up, but then for one afternoon, I just prayed. I said to God that, so far this looks like something that is really, really for me, but how come I couldn't find a way? So, and that one afternoon, I went on again on Google search. Although actually I couldn't believe I would find it, because I have opened every hit in the first 5 pages of Google search, which I thought. But yeah, in the end I found a university, which is exactly what I wanted. And now, if some of you know, I'm already in the master degree program. But if you ask me right now whether psychology is my vocation, I don't know. 3 years down the road, I might not become a psychologist. But at this time, that's the way that God showed me to move forward. So I really thank Him for it, because I feel very peaceful by doing that. It was really a struggle for me, working full-time and taking master, but now my work seems to have a purpose. It's to support my study. So I go to work with more courage. So and I just want to say that God was really with me through every step of the way. Although everything seems very chaotic, but now after 1 year from that time, I look back, I can see the pattern, I can see the steps, how everything builds up to something bigger. Starting from reading all those discernment books, reading all those materials, or taking courses, or finding a spiritual director. Everything builds to something where I need to be, and I can be where I am right now. Of course, I didn't know how to plan that at that time, so I really believe that God showed me in every step of the way. And God is really in charge of everything. Actually, I promised to Him that I will give a testimony in years after I found a way to move forward, but I got scared, and in the end, I've never told any one of you about how I find out about this. But in the end, He gave me this session anyway, so yeah. And okay, so vocation has a lot of layers. It has layers of skill, readiness, layers of ego or pride or stubbornness. So for us, we really need to peel it off one by one, and of course, with God's voice leading us through every step of the way to choose the journey which we need to take. And there will of course be many people who will support us, or who will discourage us to do that, or be very judgmental if we decided to do things that we think God wants us to do. But in the end, what we are after is God, and the only one that can fulfill our purpose in life is also Him. So we should just leave our vocation with Him as the only audience in our life.